Good evening, everyone. This is Liam, and today I wanted to discuss my thoughts on the recently revealed Pokémon Legends ZA, or C-A, which was announced earlier this morning in the Pokémon Presents. I've taken notes on some of the interesting things I noticed in the trailer, and wanted to just whip up a quick video to share it and discuss it with you guys. First of all, Lumiose as a setting. This has me pretty excited, to be honest. I have a soft spot for the Kalos region, and Lumiose is a city I spent quite a lot of time in. It is interesting though. A lot of the vocabulary online suggests that Lumiose will be the setting of the game, not Kalos itself. Some people are quite annoyed at this, some people are quite excited. I'm in the excited/interested boat. By no means can you not do an RPG set in one city. I mean, look at Persona, look at Like a Dragon, but I do think that for what Pokemon requires, it'll be interesting. I'm quite interested in what Game Freak will be doing for this setting. I do expect much more interactions with the environment, with the city itself. I think this will be one of the densest, most interactable settings we've ever had. I do think Game Freak might be looking towards RPGs like Persona or Like a Dragon. My sister actually brought up the question of, if it's set in just an urban environment, where will you catch Pokemon? And other than, what a city would have, parks, rivers, ponds, alleyways even, sewers, but even the inside of buildings, I do think that just with that alone, you can get a lot, but there are some Pokemon in the Kalos Dex, I just don't know where you'd catch them. Like, where are you going to find Goodra? Oh, maybe a sewer, actually. Without thinking too hard, I just, where are you going to find Xerneas or Yveltal? I do think maybe that, a thin layer around the circumference of Lumiose might be explorable. That might lead to more specific Pokemon you can catch, but it seems that Lumiose will be quite massive. I have seen a suggestion that France's Catacombs could act as a new layer added to Lumiose. An unseen catacomb system underneath Lumiose could be a good place to include higher level Pokemon. They could even act as dungeons, to be honest. I do want to bring up a quote that was said in the trailer. In the trailer that said, "A beautiful coexistence between people and Pokemon." And the fact that we see Pokemon like Gyarados swimming in a river, and just, even though it's a Pokemon trailer, there was a lot of Pokemon just interacting, almost as if the whole setting was Pokemon and humans coexisting, like it said. So I do think that there will be quite a lot of Pokemon found just throughout. I think we'll see Pokemon everywhere. Which leads me to the thought of, will Legends Arceus's catching mechanics return? Will Ride Pokemon return? Is there even a need? I do hope that the catching mechanic returns. I really, really do. It was my favorite feature of that game. For Ride Pokemon, I think there will be. I think there will be Ride Pokemon, but it will be akin to Go-Goat, which we saw already in X and Y. So none of the HM replacements. This is going to be quite an interesting game. My one indication that the catching mechanic might return is that in the trailer we do see a trainer throw a Pokemon at a Dragonair, which he's not throwing a fishing rod as some people suggested. It looks like the trainer is throwing a Pokeball, attempting to catch Dragonair. So if this is a pitch document in universe and it's a trailer in real life, that indicates to me that you can catch Pokemon hopefully like that. And the last thing I'm wondering about, and this is more story territory, but I'm just going to assume that there's no gym setting. Legends Arceus didn't have gyms for obvious reasons, but this obviously won't have gyms unless you can have 8 in one city, which would be kind of cool actually. Imagine having 8 gyms in one city, but I'm going to assume that this game is going to have its own story with its own progression. But speaking of story, I do think it's interesting that we have no idea what time period this is meant to be set in. The term urban redevelopment has been getting a lot of scrutiny. People saying, does that necessarily mean it's going from a modern to a futuristic, or is it going from an ancient or an older to a modern? It's not clear. I do think that the trailer itself in universe is meant to be some sort of pitch, like a development pitch, like an architectural pitch. I think there is some storytelling in the trailer itself, in the way it's edited. It begins with a traditional paper architectural sketch then transitioning into the black and neon 3D modeling software, and then back into paper. It looks like, that this company is pitching to, I don't know, the Lumiose government or the Kalos government to redevelop Lumiose City. And that company in question is believed to be this company here, which people are referring to as the Quasar Company. No idea what they are or who they're meant to be, if they're an evil team, but I don't see a connection to Team Flare, just in the name. The only connection I see people bringing up is that the name Quasar is similar to that of Pokemon Galactic, both being space-themed names. But other than that, there's nothing to really indicate that it's related to Team Galactic or Galaxy Team. But it is interesting that you can already, when you overlay the two maps, you can see some significant differences already. I'm not sure if this is how you would indicate it on a map, but to me it looks like Dead End Alley has become a subway. All of the plazas, all 5 plazas, have also changed dramatically. They were basically a small park with a monument in the center, but now they've changed quite a bit. Now, the story of this game is something that we won't really know about for a while, but there are some obvious things we can speculate on, such as the game's name being ZA or Zeta A, brings up the character of AZ. AZ's story is probably going to be relevant. For those who don't recall, AZ was a character in Pokemon X and Y's backstory, who was the ancient king of Kalos, who, after losing his beloved Floette during the war, constructed the ultimate weapon to both revive it and then use it as a weapon to end the war. His name, AZ, I always thought was meant to represent the beginning and the end, but this is in the inverse, so I wonder is AZ possibly behind the Quasar Company? Is he the one that is maybe repenting for his past actions and trying to bring Lumiose into a new age? I do think it's worth mentioning that AZ's Floette is a design that's unobtainable in the franchise. It has existed in, I think, every Pokemon game's code ever since its introduction, but it's only existed in cutscenes. I do think this will be the game. This is my bet. I do think this will be the game where we finally are able to get AZ's Floette. I do think Game Freak are finally going to do that. This entire game's name of being Pokemon Z, I believe it's not as an apology, not at all, but I do think it's Game Freak acknowledging that Kalos was an underdeveloped region, an underdeveloped set of games, and this will hopefully be a really cool, not return, but an expansion of the Kalos region of X and Y. Obviously, the Z and Zygarde, I have no idea how Zygarde will be significant, but it will be, and so will Xerneas and Yveltal. But Zygarde's lore was always kind of tenuous and vague, so this game, I imagine, is going to go into further detail about that trio. Speaking of Pokemon, I do think it's exciting to think about the starter options for this game. I will put up on screen the Pokemon that we can safely say will not be the starters of this game. The Hisuian starters, for one. But what I've seen pointed out is the Kanto and the Hoenn starters will likely not be the starters either, as they've got Megas. As whoever's chosen for the starters of this game will probably get Mega Evolutions, most likely will. So we can rule out Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle. We can rule out Trico, Chikorita, and Mudkip. We can rule out Rowlet, Cyndaquil, and Oshawott. And I'm not sure if we can rule out the Sinnoh starters or the Paldean starters. They were the starters of the 2 most recent games, but I'm not sure. So, other than that, I don't have any personal speculations, but I do think that if Piplup is chosen as a starter, they will do something with Empoleon or Napoleon, but that's about it. Speaking of Mega Evolutions are back. I am so excited for this game. Mega Evolutions were just the cherry on top. I've missed Mega Evolutions. They were my favorite gimmick in the franchise. And it was such a shame that after I remember missing the speculation people had for what new Megas we'd see in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And then Sun and Moon didn't give us any new ones. And then Generation 8 onwards, we just didn't have Megas anymore. So the fact that Megas aren't just back, but will likely be getting new ones, is really exciting. There are 48 Mega Evolutions across 46 Pokemon, I believe, because Mewtwo and Charizard have 2, which makes me assume that I'm assuming that all 46 Pokemon that can Mega Evolve will be in this game, the same way that all Sinnoh Pokemon were available in Pokemon Legends Arceus. I don't think it's much of a stretch that the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire Mega Evolutions will be available, but I do wonder what new Pokemon will get Mega Evolutions, and that's a topic of its own. Flygon is my number one choice, but will Xerneas, Yveltal, and Zygarde get Megas? I'm kind of neither here nor there about that. I like Xerneas and Yveltal's designs, and I don't know why I'd even take them, and Zygarde already has 4 or 5 forms, so that some relevant story Pokemon will get Mega Evolutions other than the starters. And finally, just to wrap this up, the release date. So all we know about the release date currently is 2025, and my reaction to that was complete relief. Please take as long as you need. I am as excited as I can be about this game without really knowing much about it, but its premise is really cool. I'm intrigued about this game, and if I saw a October 2024 release date, it would have crushed me. But 2025, and I don't want it in January 2025. I've seen a couple Pokemon YouTubers that want it in January, and I just don't understand why we can't have an 18-month gap for Pokemon. I want this at least after the middle of next year. I don't think it'll be a launch title for Switch 2, but I do think it's going to come out around there. But please take as long as you need, Game Freak. Please. Well, that was everything I had to say on Pokemon Legends ZA for now, but what do you guys think? I, for one, am pretty excited, honestly. This seems even more unconventional than what Legends Arceus did, and I have a soft spot for Kalos. I really don't know what to expect from this game. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll catch you next time, and have a good evening.